Here we are, back together again. It's time to talk about the issues at hand. You say what you say, say what you say, just say what you feel. It's the door, and we're gonna keep it real. It's an open conversation. It's an open conversation.
We have Michael Boykin's studio, where he is a professional producer, and this is his own personal studio. We're going to have my man Mike introduce himself to you now.
Hey everybody, my name is Michael Boykin. My company name is Boykin Beats Entertainment, LLC. I work and reside in Philadelphia. I'm a professional record producer, as he said, and I work with various artists ranging from hip-hop, R&B, pop, alternative rock, and singer-songwriter.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So, just to jump in there, have you worked with anyone that we may know?
I work with a lot of labels.
Okay.
And pretty much all the major labels. I've done work for some of the acts, up-and-coming acts. You know, I've done records on them. Sometimes the records come out, sometimes they don't.
Right, sometimes
I've
they
worked
get
with, Wanye from Boyz II Men. Like, he had a couple of artists that he had signed to him, a couple of groups.
Okay.
I was producing his artists for him. We had a studio downtown. I was working with Wyclef. He had a few acts, and I was going up in New York and doing some work with them. Actually did some work with him with his project as well.
Okay.
And but that's the old stuff. And then I have a bunch of newer artists that I'm working with now. As an artist named Leah Smith that I'm working with.
Okay.
Excellent artist. She's been on BET, 106 in Park. She's been Music Matters, BET Honors. She's done a lot of stuff. Open for John Legend.
Okay.
Robin Thicke. She's a great artist, piano player, singer, songwriter.
Cool.
And a few other artists. There's a girl named Tatiana Barbosa. She's a 19-year-old pop singer. She's Spanish, and she's doing like worldwide pop music.
Yeah.
And she's a really good artist, and she's affiliated with the Jerkins family.
Okay.
You know, Rodney Jerkins, multi-platinum producer. So I'm doing business for them. He actually hired my production company to do work for all of his artists and run his whole production situation for all his producers, writers, and artists.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so that's what I'm doing currently.
So how long have you been
producing? I would say professionally a good 10, 12 years or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if anyone wanted to get in contact with you, I'm sure you have email addresses and things of that nature where they could reach you, right?
Yes, I have. Gmail is producerboy66@gmail.com. And you can check Facebook, Twitter, any of those sites, and just look up Michael Boykin.
Okay.
And then you'll find Reverb Nation as well. Go to Reverb Nation and you can hear samples of the music. I don't put the very current music on there because, for obvious reasons.
Right.
But you can go there and listen to some music and check me out, and there's contact information on there as well.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, back in the studio, we were discussing the effects?
The influences that music had in your life. For example, me going through a breakup and listening to Phyllis Hyman and her getting me through that, So, how does music influence you, not just like because you work with it, but personally?
Personally, honestly, music unfortunately hasn't affected me personally because it's more like work for me now.
Okay.
Right.
It's like, it's so much work. Somebody say, Mike, do you like it? Do you like it? We working on something, they singing, they rapping, whatever's going on, they writing. They say, you like it? Well, I'm working right now. I can't decide whether I like it or not.
Right.
And what I would tell everybody mostly is like, well, I wouldn't be working on it if I didn't like it.
Right.
If I didn't think it was good enough for us to proceed and, make a project out of. But at the same time, music has a profound effect on pretty much everybody on the planet.
It does.
Including myself. The other day, I'm not going to name the artist, great artist, I heard a great song. Matter of fact, it was a couple of weeks ago. And wow, this song really touched me. And it's been a long time.
Okay.
Because me being in music,
Right.
Right.
I don't really
Right.
easily get impressed by things like, oh yeah, she sounds good. I've heard a bunch of great singers, a bunch
Right.
of great songs,
Right,
and
right.
musicians, and you know what I mean. But I heard this one song, I said, wow, this is a great song. It's a beautiful song,
Okay.
and I foresee that song like getting Grammys.
Okay.
Right.
You know, so I mean, you know, every once in a while, music does affect me personally. You know, it's deeper than just the surface of just, you know, the beat or the groove. Even though originally I'm a drummer and a percussionist, it's all about
Okay.
the movement and the energy
Okay.
and all of that for me. So when I hear music, I don't like boring music.
Really? Yeah.
I don't like, you know, well, I don't prefer.
Well, what's boring music?
Well, to me, boring music is neo soul, you know, old soul music and certain jazz
Really?
music. Yeah. It's boring to me because it has to make me move. It has to, you know, mentally and physically.
And
you know,
see, as
Not saying it's not great music. It's
right,
great
and that's
music.
that's not what he's saying. But somebody who's not a musician wouldn't understand what he's saying. What he's basically saying is he wants something that makes him move, not just if he's sitting in his chair, his spirit and his soul is moving with that music, and that's only something that really a musician would understand.
Well, not necessarily, because that's what neo soul or blues music. That's what music does to me. I don't like music that doesn't speak to me or make me move. I mean, that's what it does. Like, it has to be saying something to me. Rather it's rap, rather it's jazz, whatever it is. So I do get it, like what he's saying. I was just surprised that.
Well,
he said
let me
the
try to
word
explain it a
boring.
little differently.
Yeah.
I was just explaining to my daughter. She said something about playing sports. I said, you know what? I like playing baseball, but I hate watching it. I don't want to sit there and watch a baseball game because it's boring to me.
Right.
But if I'm playing, it's so much fun. So it's the same thing, you know,
Okay.
with what you're saying. It's like I'm not really going to listen to jazz and neo soul, but if I'm participating, I'm the drummer, I'm the musician playing it, it's great for me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because
Okay.
I've done it. You know, I played with a lot of great musicians. I played, like, when I was very young, I played with, like, Don Robinson, Gerald Veasley, Randy Bolin, Stacey Harkham, like, those guys on that level. And we used to play, like, straight-up jazz music, like, real jazz.
Right.
And so I grew up, you know, playing and being influenced by jazz and gospel and, you know, that type of music. But as a music producer and just as a personal listener, I really don't sit all day and listen to jazz or R&B
Right.
or soul.
Right.
I-
Yeah.
You know, not about to fall asleep.
Right.
You know, because, like I said, I like movement. I like energy.
Right.
You know.
And see, I know what you're saying because when I played
Yeah.
with the church band that I played with, some of the drummers or the bass player would say, "This is a groovy tune." I'd be like, "No, really, it's boring." And they'd
Right.
be like, "Well, how can you say that?" I'd be like, "Because it has no drive. It's not driving
Yeah, exactly.
me." You know what I'm saying?
It's just
And-
personal, like you
Right.
said,
Well,
as a
yeah,
musician.
that's like
Yeah.
what you're talking about. How does it influence you and
Right.
have an impact in your life? Because music is subjective. I mean,
Right.
it's, you know, what moves him.
Right.
Like, I'll be
yes.
like, what are you talking about? That song
Yeah.
is whack. Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean?
Yeah,
you know what I
right.
mean?
Say that.
So, whatever. Here you go, y'all. Starting already in front of company. Okay.
So when you're just relaxing, like you just said, you listen to gospel, you listen to jazz. What's the main type of music that you might listen to away from working on it that would relax Mike?
Believe it or not, classical
Silence.
music.
Oh.
Okay.
Classical. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love the movement of, like, even when it's slow, it's just like it's just the complexity of it and then the movement of it just kind of, it really gets my mind going, but I can still settle down
Right.
and then really, you know, soak it in. So that's what I like.
Now let me ask you a question, because you are in the profession that you in, the people that you may associate yourself with that are not in the music business, and they ask you, Mike, what do you like? They may come over and they hear you listen to that. Do they like? What are you listening to?
Yeah, I was just thinking.
You know what?
same
No,
thing.
people who know me, they're not surprised at all.
No.
They're not surprised. One of my mottos, I've always been open to everything. You know, multi-cultures, multi-genres. You know, anything. I'm a real open person when it comes to the world.
Right.
You know, and we'll probably touch on that later too when we talk about the music and how it's affect, how, you know, how it sells and all that. But no, most people won't be surprised. They won't be surprised at all.
Right. Well, see, I found that in my lifetime, most of my friends were surprised because, like you, I'm a percussionist too.
Okay.
And see, I like drummers or I like percussionists, so I listen to everybody. And I may come over and hear me listen to Phil Collins, who's a great drum player.
Oh yeah.
And they'd be like, "What are you listening to?" And I'd be like, "I'm listening to my man Phil. He's my favorite singer because of everything that he does."
Yeah.
And they don't understand that.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I listen to a lot of rock and alternative as well. Electronic dance music. I love that stuff because it's got a lot of energy.
Exactly.
You know, it's
like
got a lot of.
see now that music I can't. Oh my god, I'm just like it sounds like all the same beat to me.
Well, yeah, electronic dance music
It's
is all
like-
four on the floor. It's
like
the
somebody
same.
just like like
Well,
I'm like
well, when you listen to, it's just like, I mean, if you listen, let's say 40 years ago, what was popular in jazz, like straight ahead jazz music,
yeah.
every saxophone player pretty much, to the average person, did the same solo.
thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you're like, what are they doing? Like, oh my God. You know what I mean?
True.
So
yeah.
I mean, every generation has that, you know what I mean, repetitiveness. Every generation before always says, how can you listen to that? Then the next generation says, how can you listen to that? And it just keeps going. It perpetuates.
Remember house music?
Yeah, house
Oh,
music.
God,
Yeah.
the first few songs you love it, and then after a while it's just like, okay, stop.
But you know what? Well, we'll talk about that later. But house music and, you know, where it's grown and where it's come to, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And I wouldn't even think I would be an advocate or fan of dance music like that. But it basically runs the world. It really does. But, you know, I think that relates to another question that we're going to ask later, right?
Well, since we're going there now, you're not just the guy who's behind the scenes coming up with the music concepts and things like that. Do you also handle some of the marketing aspects of it?
I try not to. Sometimes I do because I have to.
Okay.
You know, I had to come up with a marketing strategy for a young male artist I was working with. He was doing like pop dance music. So like Jason Derulo, Jay Sean type music. We had to come up with a marketing strategy. So I had to do it because there was nobody else to do it.
Okay.
And then for something that I was doing, I came up with a marketing plan and strategy for that. So sometimes when you have to do it, it's good to know it.
Right.
But I've learned all that to know that you shouldn't be doing it.
Okay.
If you're going to be doing this in the music business, there needs to be a balance. You need to have somebody else handle all of that.
Okay.
You know,
Right,
you should know about what's going on, but
not have to handle.
but the artists themselves actually doing that work, it's too much. It's too much. Well, in my opinion, it's too much.
Now, when you do did that marketing strategy, did you base it on what else was going on out there in that bracket of that artist?
Definitely, it has to be relative to, you know, the demographic or the direction or the vision of the artist that you're dealing with.
Okay.
It totally has to relate, you know, or else it's for nothing. Like you're doing it for nothing. You're just kind of like, you know, closing your eyes and just shooting, and you never hit the target. You don't know where the target is.
Right.
You know, so you definitely need to, I mean, keep it open where you can, you know, you might be surprised, basically, what I'm saying. You might be surprised, like, I'm targeting this, but, wow, I didn't know that they were going to like it, too.
Right.
You know, so you kind of keep it open for that, but you got to have a plan. You got to have a vision. You can't just, you know, just...
you got to know your
just throw it out
demographic.
there. And then one thing I was telling Mark, I don't know if
he's one of our producers.
Yeah, I was telling Mark, I said, if I was to start marketing what I do or anybody else, I would always suggest, if you're in the music business, you're a singer, you're a rapper, you're a producer, you're a musician, don't go to your Facebook and start marketing your project on your Facebook.
Why not?
And now that's controversial. People say, why not?
Right.
Because everybody on my Facebook does exactly the same thing I do in one form or fashion. They're not going to be excited about, oh, I got my new project out. Check out my video.
Right.
Go to iTunes. They try to do the same thing.
Right.
So it's just like we all going back and forth trying to sell each other the same thing.
Okay.
So what you need to do is find your fan base
Right.
and reach out to them. And if you can expand that fan base and get that to be a part of your Facebook page. That's why they have a Facebook personal page and a fan page.
Right.
So now you get the fan page and you just kind of like try to reach out to people that you can reach. That's your demographic, your target demographic of, you know, where you're trying to go with your music.
Okay.
Like I said, because if you're one of my friends and she's one, and Mark's, we all doing the same thing.
Right.
Like, you're not going to come to my show. I mean, you might come out, but I'm saying we need fans. We need young fans that's going to say, oh, I love Mike's music, and I'm going to go buy it. I'm going to go on the internet and check them out and go to YouTube and check out the video. But artists that's doing the same thing for the most part. It's not even hating. They too busy doing what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So don't market to your own Facebook because they all doing what you're doing.
Mhm.
Plus, you need to, when you're marketing, you need to learn what's working and what's not working.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Because if your fan base is not feeling that, or they're feeling, or
Right.
you're seeing it falling off, then you're like, wait, I need to restructure. I
Right,
need to
exactly.
I mean, that's just marketing 101.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. You need to have a good idea of who you are and what you're doing, where you're going,
Yeah.
Okay.
and yeah.
Now I was surprised that you said, you know, you plugged iTunes in there. Now, when you help with marketing, did you target your product towards iTunes and downloading, or towards the stores themselves and getting the product on the shelf?
Well, because of the way things are, the second part of it, no, not at all. Not even to the stores on the shelf. Because
Really?
it's tough. It's tough these days. If you, like, people say, well, I'm working on my album.
Mhm.
And they say, well, I'm going to put my album out. Well, who are you?
Right.
Nobody knows who you are.
Right.
So why would you waste 12 songs without the proper push or
Mhm.
backing? So now, the best thing to do is to do one song at a time. So
Okay.
now you got 12 chances to make it instead of wasting 12 songs.
Okay.
So Kellogg's got many types of cereal,
Mhm.
but when you see a commercial, only thing they advertising is Frosted Flakes.
Right.
Right.
That's it. They telling you what you need to buy.
Right.
They not giving you the option. They say, well, we got this cereal, this cereal, this cereal, this cereal. No, you just say, this is what you need to buy right now. You need to buy Frosted Flakes.
Okay.
So that's the same thing when you do singles.
Mhm.
You know, you say, this is what I'm selling to you. This is what's hot. This is what I'm a target. You know, instead of saying, well, I got this song, I got that song, and I got this song, and you take your pick. And then they're going to pick, and then they're not going to pick the rest.
Right.
But you need to sell them individually.
Right.
Mhm.
To maximize, you know, your product and everything that you have. That's the way I think of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that why, like, I noticed that a lot of artists will put out a single and it goes right to iTunes, not, you know, on a CD like before, you know, you would.
I mean,
Make a
yeah, because of the technology, your accessibility to whoever is way better. Your options are way better on the internet. So, you know, you have to do that. I mean, you have no choice. You know, all the different places, CD Baby,
Mhm.
iTunes, and you can name a whole bunch of them. You know, the different independent radio stations and satellite radio on the internet. Out, so many different options that you have to get your product out there.
Yeah.
Getting it to a store is like, I don't know, is not effective unless
Okay.
you have major backing.
Right,
Okay.
and it's cheaper, isn't it?
Right.
Cheaper than actually
Oh yeah,
getting put on the CD
No overhead.
and pressing CDs.
yeah.
and
There's
stuff.
no overhead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's better for the more established artists to do like the CDs and the album as opposed to someone new.
Yeah, because if an established, let's say Usher is like, I'm coming out with a new album, and maybe before the CD comes out, they'll push maybe 1 to 3 singles
Mhm.
individually, and then they find out which one really catches on.
Right.
And then they'll also have a target date of when they're going to put the CD out.
Mhm.
And then that way they know what they had. They know what they're dealing with. And they say, okay, we know we can project that he's going to sell at least 1.5 million in the next 9 months.
Mhm.
If he's Jay-Z or Drake or somebody, he might do more or less. It depends on who it is. Kendrick Lamar, you know, the numbers change depending on the draw of the artist. You know, like Taylor Swift came out with a whole bunch of records. Katy Perry, you know, just did a new record and is doing very well.
Right.
So it depends. So they wouldn't want to say, well, we're going to put 5 million CDs. We're going to put it in all the stores all over the country. And they might lose.
Yeah. And it's
You know?
surprising you said Taylor Swift because she's actually, last time I checked, she was leading in sales with 3.1 million album sales in 10 weeks.
There you go.
You
Yep.
know what I mean? And I was astonished to see that
Yeah.
of all people, Taylor Swift is number one.
Really?
Well, yeah.
I'm
Well,
not surprised
I'm not
at all.
surprised,
I
yeah.
mean, when I was surprised when I think about other artists. I know she's good, and I know she has
Right.
a large fan base.
Right.
That's why I was a little surprised.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
look at her music. and
Yeah, yeah.
she
That's what it
targets.
is.
Yeah.
Like, you
I mean,
know.
what she did was she was a young country artist, but that was a teenager.
Hmm.
So that was new in itself.
Right.
So in her point of view, from that angle,
Mhm.
and then because she's young, they infuse rock and pop music and
Right.
mainstream music in with the country You know, and then now she's more of a mainstream crossover artist than a country artist.
Yeah.
But her music is great. I love her music.
Her music
I'm not a
is good.
teenager. I'm
And
not a
you know-
girl, but
Yeah,
I love her
like
music.
And she puts on a good show.
Yeah.
She puts on
Oh,
an
she
awesome
sells
show.
out.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah,
her
she
shows
does.
is
Because
ridiculous.
I've worked her shows, and I mean, I was astonished that out of all the shows that I've done, even Beyonce, people were still walking around at the center. But when Taylor Swift was on, nobody was walking around.
Yeah.
Everybody was in their seats paying attention to the show. I was shocked. Like, are you what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, now this is a touchy subject. If I could bring it up a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
A lot of urban people and situations that are in the music business or entertainment. I've been talking about this for like at least the past, and I think I was talking to Mark about it a little bit, past 3 to 5 years. A lot of urban people are stuck. They're thinking that we still set the trends for the world and for the music. We don't anymore. We're an influence, but we're not the main
No, we're
catalyst for that anymore. It's not there anymore. Because not because our music is lesser than it was in the past, because it's a world market now.
Right.
It's a world market. So when you put out anything, you have to think about the world. You can't just think about, I'm from Philly, I'm from the inner city, I'm gonna keep it real, I'm gonna keep it hood, or I'm
So
gonna keep it
basically-
R&B or soulful. You can't think that no more.
No, so basically you're saying, because that's what I think, they don't want to cross over because then they feel like they selling out, is what you're saying?
Well,
or?
yeah, I don't know what they have various reasons why they don't want to do it. And then I was explaining to somebody yesterday, I said, sometimes they do it because that's what they feel. They just want to do what they feel. If they're black, that's their experience, that's how they want to express themselves. You can't say anything about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? How far to go depends on the market, the demographic, the world, and everything else. You know, somebody came here and they said, man, I said, well, who's your favorite, male R&B singer? No, I just said R&B singer.
Right.
They said Trey Songz. He's the best R&B singer and he sell more records than... I said, hold up. You don't sell more records than everybody.
No.
I said, he's good. I like him. I think
Right.
he's good.
Right.
But at the same time, I said, let's go to YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I said, let's look at his, his numbers. He'll get anywhere from 20 to maybe 50 million views on a video, which is great. I wish I had that many.
Right.
Right.
But then you go to somewhere like, let's say, David Guetta.
Mm-hmm.
You ever heard of David Guetta?
Mm,
The electronic
I
dance
am.
music producer, DJ, one of the highest paid artists in the world, period, hands down. A lot of people don't know that. He's not even a singer or rapper.
No, he's not.
Is that the DJ guy?
Yeah, the
from
DJ
Europe,
guy.
from, like, overseas
Exactly. He's from
somewhere?
France.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
He signed an EMI in France. Right. This dude, almost, $750 million, $500 million, 250 million. Numbers are way different. Way different.
Yeah.
A whole nother landscape, a whole nother scale. And people always say, well, how about this artist? How about Beyonce? Well, let's go to Beyonce. 75, 85, 100 million, 150 million. And still, you keep going back. And then you got this guy, what's his name? What's his name? Gangnam Style. What's the dude name? I forget. That's
I
his name.
forget his name.
But the guy who did Gangnam Style.
Yeah.
Well, he actually broke a YouTube record. Over 1 billion views. Now, this guy's not even singing and rapping in English. It's in Korean. Only thing he says in English is Gangnam Style.
Right.
That's it. And he shattered all the records. Now, he had shattered a previous record by Justin Bieber. He did 1 billion. He killed his record. And a lot of people have a misconception of what's selling and what's popular.
Yeah.
Like I said, especially urban people. And I've been trying to tell people to open up your minds.
Yeah,
Open up your hearts.
that's
Like
true.
10, 15 years ago, you got 50 Cent, you got Eminem, you got Nelly.
Right.
All of those dudes did Diamond in the United States.
Right.
Diamond, we talking about 10 million, which is huge,
Mm-hmm.
right? South, Midwest, West Coast, a little bit of East Coast, whatever regionally.
Right.
Those regional markets don't exist anymore. So if you take one of those same artists and say, hey, I'm about to put out a record, and then you figure out, all right, I'm not selling what I thought I was going to sell.
Right.
And then you start doing the research. So maybe I need to expand my whoever. And
Right.
then once you start listening to the music that's going on everywhere else, it's nowhere near the music that you're doing.
Exactly.
So now you have to include some of that in what you're doing just to appeal to everybody, because the sales ain't what they used to be.
Exactly.
They're not what they used to be. So now you got to expand just to even get a decent amount of sales.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
because I was shocked when I did my research to see that the sales in America in 2012 were down 9%.
Mhm.
They only sold 7.1 billion, opposed to what they were selling overseas.
right?
You know what I mean? And I was shocked. So that means Americans only bought 316 million albums in 2012.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's really crazy.
And you justify that with all the music that's out there, and that's all we sold in America,
Yeah.
composed to the whole world.
Yeah.
You know, so like you said, these artists aren't appeasing to everyone. They're only concentrating on what's right here, and you have to broaden your horizons now.
You really do.
Because the spectrum has definitely changed.
Yeah, and it's never going to change back either.
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
No.
The world is open.
Right.
You know,
It's open.
even if you're
Right.
selling toffees, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, candy on the internet, you got to say, what, can I sell some in Austria? Can I sell some in France?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In order to get your numbers up,
Mm-hmm.
because you're not going to get it here. It's way too much competition. Everybody
Right.
know they can do it.
Right.
And people who are qualified, people are totally unqualified. It don't matter. They doing it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not everybody can cross over either. Like there's some
they
artists
can't.
that
Right.
you're like, no, just stick to what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
they can't because
Right.
they don't either
Yeah.
mentally or craft wise. They just
I
may
mean,
not be
and
able
that's
to.
great in itself. You know, I always make a joke about certain artists. I said, Fantasia need to stop playing and do gospel music.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer Hudson need to do the same thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Ruben Studdard, he need to just go on and
What
sing in
is
the
he doing?
quartet.
Like-
You know what I mean? Well, I heard he was on Biggest Loser.
Really?
Yeah, yep. I heard
Yeah.
Yep.
But you're
But
right.
they're all great singers, though. I
Right,
love
they
those
are.
singers,
Yes.
but they need to stop playing and just do gospel music. They're way overqualified for
Right. Mm-hmm.
the mainstream music they're trying to do.
Right. And
You
if they
know.
would do gospel, then they would probably broaden their horizons and increase their sales.
Right.
Because most of the people who can't cut it in R&B, they do go to gospel, and then they become mega stars. Like,
Right.
for instance, what's the one with Yolanda Adams?
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
used to be an R&B singer, which a lot of people don't know.
Oh, I
Now
didn't
she
know
be-
that.
Yeah, she used to be an R&B singer.
I
But
thought she was always
she
gospel.
was that successful, so then she crossed over to gospel.
But she crossed over real fast.
Yeah,
she didn't
yes,
stay
she
real
did.
long.
I was going to
Because
say
she got with
I
Ben
was
Tankard
like-
in the very beginning, and he
Right.
started producing her. And a lot of people don't know that he started her career.
Right.
He was a producer from down, I forget where they're from, Tennessee or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
she's from
Yeah. So, and a lot of people don't know that. You know what I mean? But like you were saying, some of these other artists like Fantasia or whoever, they just need to go ahead and go into that category, and then they
Yeah.
will be more successful.
Yeah.
Because their horizon is basically shut down in the R&B industry where they are, because they're not going to go any further.
It's you know, I never understood this phrase when I was younger, and it took me a long time to figure out. They say you're overqualified. I said, I understand. If I could do the job, I could do the job.
Right.
But overqualified
Right.
means so many things on so many levels.
Mhm.
Like, you know, psychologically, even though you can do the job, you feel as though you can do better. And you're doing it because you need the job.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And just because you're really good at something or great at something, that don't mean you need to be doing what you're doing. It needs to fit. You know who you are, because you're not going to be a productive person. So if you're working for me and you sweeping the floors, but you're an executive secretary, you can get tired of sweeping the floor no matter how much money you get paid, because you know psychologically it's like, you know, I'm better at this. I'm on another level.
Mhm.
You know, so I wouldn't hire you if I was an employer. I said, well,
Right.
she's an exec. I'm not going to hire her, even though I know she can do the job.
Right.
You know, and it's the same thing. They overqualified for the music game. I mean, for the mainstream music game, they need to do something else.
And it's just
You
like
know.
some of your older singers that you look at, like you still see them out there, and you think, well, what happened? Like your Patti LaBelle's or your Gladys Knight and people like that. These people can sing, but as far as mainstream goes, they're not in it no more. No one is going to buy their stuff worldwide.
Yeah, I mean, stylistically, you know, I mean, as far as the generation gap,
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3
Oh, yeah,
generations
yeah.
with those people.
Yeah.
So, but they're great at what they do,
Right,
and they
right.
will maintain,
Right.
you
A
know,
certain
people
level.
who respect them, who
Mhm.
love them, who will buy their music and support them. And, you know, they might perform in Vegas for the next 5 years and make a few
Right.
$1 million.
Mhm.
And, you know, so there'll always be a place for the greats.
Right. And
You know.
and what shocked me was one time I was up 69th Street, and I saw a headline, I'm not going to say the name, was performing at the Uptown on 69th Street. And I'm like, the tower.
Just
Yeah,
out.
Child Theater. Yeah,
And I'm
right.
like, why are they performing here?
Right.
You know what I mean? As opposed to the Wells Fargo Center or someplace like that. And then it dawned on me, this is where they are now.
Yeah.
You know what
But
I mean?
I don't really necessarily think that it's like like you take Toni Braxton and watching a little reality show, she goes and performs at these smaller venues or whatever, trying to get back and build her momentum. Okay, fine. But somebody like a Patti LaBelle, she can do it. She doesn't really have to sell out a big old stadium. I mean, because she may not be there. I mean, she does so many other things that she may not, you know, she's moving away from that. You know, look at Tina Turner. I mean,
well,
like,
you again, I'm not going to say names. You would be surprised that some of the headliners that have booked shows at the Wells Fargo Center, and they've actually, people that we listen to daily that are all that, they've actually canceled their shows because their ticket sales did not generate enough business for them even to have the show at the Wells Fargo Center.
right. I mean, I feel like a good artist, like, you have some of these older rap artists who try to make a comeback, and you're like, really? Like, you're like 50. Like, sit down.
Right.
What are you talking
Right.
about? Like, I don't want to hear you
Right. Right.
rapping. Like, you know, no, move on to other things. Like, you know, some art move into film or TV and things like that. So, you know, I mean, maybe, you know, but that is true. I've seen where shows were canceled.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they didn't sell.
Yeah.
You know, I think this is a good segue to the other thing that we want to talk about, right? The old music compared to the new music.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now, which would you prefer?
Well, you know what? I don't have an answer. My answer is I prefer the good music.
Well, what's the good?
The good music.
Well,
I
that's
like that
relative. That's relative to who's listening. That's you know what I mean?
Okay.
Now, me being a producer, I stay up to the minute.
Okay.
Literally up to the minute on everything. I'm not one of those producers like, yo, man, back when we were doing it. Nah, man. You know, I stay with the latest software, the latest sounds, the latest music, the latest movements. I don't let it influence me as in what I do and who I am, but you have to stay relative and on point with what's going on.
Okay, so that
You
way
know.
you're always in play.
Yeah, you always, you know, a lot of people can't reinvent themselves. A lot of people, you know, some people, they get past a certain age and they say, well, their version of what good music is, you can't change that. It's never going to change. It's like, no, Marvin Gaye, this person, that person, and you can't tell. And they're right, but at the same time, are they relevant?
Right.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I give you one example. I'm actually surprised that he was able to reinvent himself the way that he is, and he's really taken off.
Charlie Wilson?
Charlie Wilson.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
I mean, he is really doing it big.
Well, I mean, one thing we learn in the music game is a few things that get you: politics, relationships, cosigns. If he's co-signed by like all the young producers, songwriters, artists, rappers. They love him, so now he's accepted.
Right.
You know, and that's what it. And plus, he's great at what he does.
Yeah.
I saw him on the BET Awards. I never watched the BET Awards, by the way.
Okay.
But I saw that one, and I was like, "This is the best BET Awards I ever saw." And partly because I saw him perform, but the way it was organized and put together, it was put together better than I've ever seen it. But when I saw him on the show, I was like, "Wow, this guy, all these young dudes, you know, what's his name? What's the guy name? Man, what's
What are you saying?
the skinny boy?
It's
The singer.
Skinny boy.
the skinny boy, the singer.
Miguel, there you go.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know why it just
So come on
left
now,
my
wait.
head. Miguel. Miguel get up there, perform. You got this artist perform. You got that perform. Even Jamie Foxx, all those guys, they all perform. But Charlie Wilson killed them all.
Yeah.
He killed them all. His performance,
Well, that's
his
the one my
execution.
baby Anthony Hamilton.
Oh, well, Anthony Hamilton's cool, too. I like him. Raheem DeVaughn is cool, too.
Charlie gotta be like what? All of 60 or something?
Yeah, he's got to be at least 60.
I mean, he made a serious comeback.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
he went
did.
through.
And
Yeah.
you know what's
I mean,
crazy? He's been
crazy.
working at that for a while. Like,
But
when
he's
I had
come
my
back.
studio, it's coming. When I had my studio downtown, we talking about 2003, 2004, 2003 to 2006. I had the studio down there. 2003, he was down there. Down the hall from me was Dre and Vidal, the studio, the producers. Jazzy Jeff was across the hall. Me and Wanya had the store next to Dre. Anyway, he was coming down there back then,
Wow.
trying to get music.
Really?
Way back then. Yeah, he been working at it for a while, so it takes a little while to get that momentum up. And at first, when they said, "Yeah, we about to cut some records with Charlie Wilson,"
Right.
y'all cut.
Well, I mean, yeah. Like,
Usher just left last week.
Right.
Like, why y'all record Charlie Wilson? But you know, it did what it did, and you know he was very good at it. You
Yeah, but
gotta
like
you gotta
Tony said,
respect
he
it.
reinvented himself.
Yeah,
and,
you
like,
gotta respect what he did. Like he did a great job.
Well, he's talented. So,
yeah. I mean, it's real.
that's
But you know,
genuine
but
talent.
the relatable factor is the key thing. You know, you
Mhm.
got to be able to relate
Right.
to the new audience.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't have to sell yourself out,
Right.
but you have to relate. If you're going to be an older artist trying to come back,
Okay.
you need to have some relatable elements. You know, and cosigns.
Right.
You know, that's just how the game is. Just you know, people are followers.
Yeah.
They're not going to say, "Oh, I like Charlie Wilson just because he's great." You know, no kids. They say, "I like Charlie Wilson because Snoop liked Charlie Wilson."
Right.
Because you know Pharrell likes Charlie Wilson.
Mhm.
Now and Justin Timberlake likes. Now I like Charlie Wilson, and that's
Right.
just you know unfortunately what it is.
Mhm.
You know,
Okay.
but he is great.
Yeah, he is. He is. I
Yeah.
mean, he's really doing it big.
Yep.
So basically, how long? I think you said like 15 years. You've been doing that.
Yeah.
How did you start? How did you get involved? Did you just start up being a drummer in the studio, or?
Yeah, actually, that's
Really?
exactly how it. Yeah.
Okay.
I was working with a guy, and he had a studio, and I was doing all the drum programming,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a couple of other guys I was working. He was a keyboard player,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, wow, I think I like this producing thing. This
Okay.
is something that I could do, because I understood the whole process from another view, not just the guy playing the drums or the musician participating, and me and him, we used to fight all the time, you know, because he said, oh man, they're not going to hear what's going on. Just play the bad notes. It don't matter, you know.
What?
Yeah, I'm not going to mention any names, but
Wow.
and my standard, and the fact that we had that big difference with each other,
Mhm.
kind of drove me to say, I'm gonna prove to him, and to myself first.
Right.
You know, I can really do this on another level, because I knew even at a real young age there was more to it than just throwing together some music.
Mhm.
You know, oh, that sounds good. You hear what the bass player did, you hear the drummer did.
Right.
Who cares about that? It's about producing a record.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's one thing that, you know, I was fortunate to be around other producers that were in the game back then that told me, said, Mike, you know, this is how you have to do it. You have to do it this way, that way. It's not about what you think it is, you know what I mean? Because at first I think it's all about great musicianship.
Right.
That's not what a great producer is.
Right.
You can participate, you can get other musicians that are great musicians, and you know, help you make the record.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all about being a good producer. So yeah, back then that's exactly how I got started. I was working from doing that programming for this guy. I went to a studio, and whew, man, this is a while ago. I'm not gonna name the studio.
Okay.
They closed down now. But I went to the studio, and the owner of the studio was like, "Oh my God, you know, you can do that on the drum machine."
Right.
But I was still a drummer. I was still out gigging and touring and playing and stuff. And they said, "Wow, you can do this on a drum machine," and he loved it because it could save time and money.
Right.
And I had an R8 drum machine. I'll never forget it.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to carry that around. You know how people carry around their sticks?
Yeah.
Well, I carried around my R8, and I would just go to studios and get work.
Get up.
And I would play because I was able to play live. If you turn your head, it sounded like you know what I'm talking about. It
Yeah.
sounded like a guy playing live
Yeah,
drums.
right.
They say, "Wow," you know. So I would do that, and I would just get a lot of work.
Wow.
And I was just like, I didn't stop playing drums, but I got so much work doing the programming.
Right.
And then that eventually went to
Mhm.
producing and arranging and computers and
Okay.
sampling and all that kind of stuff. And I learned how to engineer
Okay.
at that studio. We recorded big bands, orchestras, choirs. So I was fortunate to learn that from somebody who had been in business 35 years. Like, this is how you record, this is how you position the mics, this is how you do this. But everybody else that was in my age group and younger had no clue how to do that. Let me get my MP,
Right.
or let me get the computer and some
Right.
software, and then that's all we do.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I was fortunate to be able to do that, but have the other thing at the same time.
Okay.
So
Now, I'm surprised that you said that, you know, you did the, being a professional drummer, that you had the drum machine. Do you like working with a drum machine opposed to working with a real set of drums? Does it, like you said, does it save you time and money, or?
yes,
Okay.
I don't prefer one over the other
Okay.
because I know I can make the software drums
Mm-hmm.
sound exactly like what I would play.
Wow.
So
Now,
it don't matter. It don't
Okay.
matter to me.
Now, did you find that hard to do, or was it relatively easy? Because I know what you're probably saying that you can do, a lot of people couldn't do.
Well, you talking about like physically able to do?
Like,
play it?
okay, like you saying with your drum machine, you can sound just as if you're playing those drums.
Right.
Right. Now, I know when I'm listening to certain songs, I can tell if they use a drum machine or not.
Right.
So, my question to you is, did you find that hard to do, or was it relatively easy for you?
It was easy for me.
Okay.
It was easy because, like I said, I was fortunate to be at a time where it was all about real music,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, I was in the generation of all the electronics
Okay.
and the technology. So it's like I automatically embraced the technology, but I was still a musician.
Right.
So I applied both, and then so it was easy for me. It was easy for
Okay.
me to translate, what was done live, to program.
Okay. So you got these different instruments in here. You know how to play each one?
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much. Yep.
Pretty much, or yes?
Yes, yeah.
I
I mean, some more than others. As I told you, I'm more of a drummer percussionist than anything.
Okay.
I play the guitar on, I would say, a good 75% of all the tracks that I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not am I a guitarist? No, I have plenty of friends that are real guitarists.
Okay.
I'm a producer that plays what needs to be played on
Right.
the
I
record.
got you. Got you.
You know what I mean? I'm not a guitar player that will give you a Jonathan Butler solo, but
Right.
I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? But I'll play some chords and
Right,
strum
lay
some
it down
rhythms
for you, gotcha.
and lay down some melodies and and then put some effects on them and put them in Pro Tools and make a record.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you're working with
Same with keys.
right?
Yep.
Now, when you're constructing a song, which instrument would you start off on first?
It totally depends on what inspires me.
Okay.
I could be walking down the street and I can hear a truck screech. It's like, oh my God, I heard that. And I go back home and play the keyboard.
Okay.
And one day I was on my old block. It was some guys getting his floors done.
Mm.
And all you heard was, and you kept hearing that noise. And I was like, man, what is that noise? But I heard a note in it. And I was like, wow, I ran in the house and I recorded the idea on a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
I made a rock track out of it. It was a guitar chord. And so different things inspire me. A lot of people think because I'm a drummer originally, as you see from the logo,
Right.
that I would just do drums. I just started out with the drums. It used to be that way mostly in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But once I started playing other instruments,
Right.
for the most part, I would say 60 to 70% is other instruments
Okay.
besides the drums. So, I think the hardest part for me is to come up with a great chord structure or melody.
Mm.
And the easy part is the drums
Okay.
and the bass.
Right.
Like, that's the easy part for me. So I'm not going to really focus on what's easy. I'm going to focus on what I need,
Okay.
what's needed, So I'll focus on that. And so once I get that, I know I have that foundation melodically
Mm-hmm.
and cordially, and then I'll work on everything else around it,
Okay.
So somebody brings you music, a song they wrote, and you put music to
Mhm.
what they wrote, or
Yeah, I mean,
or
it's been working a lot like that lately. It didn't used to, but a lot of people have been coming to me. But mostly, they'll hear a track. So let me hear your tracks. I do R&B, I do pop, I do hip hop, or whatever it is they do, dance music, and they'll listen to the instrumental and say, all right, we want to write a song to that, or they get a writer, or I'll get a writer,
Okay.
and however it goes, or
Right.
I'll help write, whatever it takes.
Mm-hmm.
And but a lot of people lately have been coming to, listen, I wrote a song, they just singing.
Okay.
I mean, it's like,
And you
okay,
can put
now I have to
music
make
to
sense
it.
of it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, wow, that was a really long verse. Can you shorten that a little bit? And, so we got to make it make sense and make it have a good structure.
Okay.
do
So
you
we gotta
find that
establish-
hard to do? Or
At
is
first it
hard?
was. At first it was harder because I was so used to doing the other thing. I was so used to just having the tracks, and that was faster.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually enjoy it now. I enjoy it. It was harder at first.
Okay.
It's more work.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a lot more
Yeah,
work.
I mean, I would imagine because
Yeah. Yes, I've had I had a gospel artist come to me. She said, "Oh, I wrote these songs," and she didn't play piano. She didn't do anything. So she said she just started singing. I was like, oh, "What am I going to do with that?" I'm thinking to myself, like, "How am I going to do this?"
Right.
So I said, "Well, this is what we're going to do. Let's establish the tempo. What's the tempo? Or what's the beat? So I make sure if it's 100 beats per minute, all right, that's the tempo. And then it's like, what key are you singing in?
Right.
So what's the first note of the song? So I at least establish that. Play the first note. We know it's C. We know it's D, F, B, whatever the case is. So we'll put a reference down the tempo, a reference down the key, and I'll have her sing a cappella.
Okay.
She comes back, and then there's music done. Sometimes I had to hire, like I get somebody to play, guitar or a real pianist. When it comes to gospel music, I don't play piano on that level.
Gotcha.
When it comes to any other kind of music, I can play keys on everything. But when it comes to gospel, no, I don't play those type of chords. Even though I grew up in church playing drums, but I don't play those type of chords on piano.
Gotcha.
Why is it serious?
Well, it's on another level.
Yeah.
Before you go there, we're going to take a commercial break, and then we'll be right back with more Michael Boykin. Back with my man Michael Boykins and my girl Liz at Michael Boykins' home studio. So, which would you say to Mike before we went to commercial?
I wanted to know if I could get a little sample of your music and what you do.
Cool, no problem. I'm going to play a song by an artist named Leah Smith. I think I mentioned her earlier.
Mm-hmm.
She's playing the piano. She wrote the song, and I produced the music and everything, put everything together, arranged it. And the song's called Confused, by the way.
Okay.
The song she wrote about being confused about being in a relationship.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
About you, a little fly. That's what I thought would work it out. Dance you out there in the lights. That's what I thought would ease your mind. But we're grown now, and there's nothing that could take away all the words that were left in the open, all the things that still have my devotion, and the fact that I need some emotion, from you. All this time we spent on love, and we're still confused. Heaven knows we're so confused. What's the deal with me and you? Say that I'm hard to read. You think that you know, but you know what I think. I'm waiting for signs and dreams, so we're at a standstill in immaturity. We're too grown now to be playing kiddie games. All the words that were left in the open, all the moves that still have your devotion, all the fact that you need some emotion, from me. All this time we spent on love, and we're still nothing. Heaven knows we're so confused. What's the deal with me and you?
Nice, I like that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
now she was actually playing.
Yeah, she played the piano on that record. Every record that she's a piano player.
Okay.
So whether she come up with a piano part or not, I have her to play something. You got to
Okay.
play piano on the records.
Okay.
She has a nice voice too.
Oh yeah, great
Yeah.
voice. I
And
love her
I
voice.
was I was
Music
by
was
it. I would listen to that.
Yeah,
that was nice.
Music was hot.
Yeah.
So the other music, other than her playing the piano, was music that you
Yeah,
arranged.
yeah, I did all the rest of the music.
Okay.
That was
So-
hot.
Thank you.
Now, when you getting her product out there, what are you gonna try to do? Put it on vinyl or CD?
Well, initially neither one.
Oh, okay.
Digitally, we'll just put it on the
Digitally?
internet and just try to, to move it that way.
Okay.
And then eventually, once we start building enough of a fan base where we know we can sell at least a certain amount of CDs, then it's worth investing and to actually get some CDs printed up. And for a few reasons, you get CDs printed up, to distribute to radio, to give to people in the industry and to sell at shows.
Okay.
And then if she becomes a household name, pray to God, then she's in the stores too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm still kind of surprised that people are still doing CDs. I guess because they're more compact than the actual vinyl. Because when I was checking on checking the sales of different things, I saw that for 5 years in a row, vinyl sales are actually up 17.7%, which is between 4 and 6 million albums sold in the United States.
Well, I'm not surprised. When there's an absence of one thing, there's always a demand for something else.
Right.
You know what I mean? So people get tired of the same thing. And then they want to say, well, what's different out there? Then they start discovering for the first time. We already know about it.
Yeah.
Oh, there's vinyl. Now let me get vinyl. So there's a lot of, music enthusiasts, young and old, that's like, oh, I want to do vinyl now.
Right.
And then a lot of artists want to have that vinyl sound,
Okay.
on a record. So they might record songs and, and press it on vinyl just so they can give it to traditional DJs as well as, CDs for like the modern DJs.
Which, to you, would you think had a better sound quality?
It's hard to say. It's a give and take on both sides. I prefer a combination.
Okay.
Is a analog opposed to digital, and this is how I describe it. Excuse my my analogy. I tell my friends, I say, listen, you see a girl walking down the street, and she bad. She got parts, she got hips, she got the waistline, she got, and she's walking through, she's beautiful. And then, because us guys, we always look.
Right.
When she walks by,
Right.
she walks by, she disappears. That's digital.
Okay.
It's beautiful. It's got a great front. It sounds great. It's clean. It's in your face, but it has no depth to it.
Okay.
It's like she disappeared. Like she just turned into a flat board.
Right.
But when she's walking to it, everything was there, all the detail and everything. So my version of digital music is that, and then of course the opposite is the analog music. Analog music has way more warmth, more depth, more space.
Right.
Now they come a long way with digital music where you can pretty much do anything.
Right.
You can do anything, with software. I mean, it's endless what you can do. But people are starting to change the recording process to accommodate all of that because they say to themselves, digital is a little harsh. You can't push the envelope on digital like the levels on, but so far it starts to sound a little trashy, a little distorted, and a little harsh. Analog has got a lot more give, a lot more headroom, a lot more space. And what people are doing, they'll record, let's say a rock band, they'll record their whole album in the studio in Pro Tools.
Okay.
Because it's convenient.
Right.
You can move everything around, you can edit, you can, transfer the files. Very convenient. But they'll record all their finished versions to tape. And I'm talking about individually, not just to a 2-track.
Right.
So if it was 36 tracks of, whatever instruments that was, done to record that particular song for the band, one track by one is recorded to a tape, a reel-to-reel. And a lot of people are doing that now because it expands the sound.
Okay.
It totally expands the sound. So they'll do a combination, and then you'll wonder why when you hear one record, it sounds one way, and you hear another record, it don't sound as big, it don't sound as great, it don't sound as fat.
Right.
It's the recording process and the mixing process. It does really make a difference. Everybody's, has a computer.
Right.
Everybody wants to be a producer. Everybody want to be a rapper or singer. You got auto-tune. You can pretty much do it on your own. You can do anything you want with a computer. You know, Fruity Loops and any other software, GarageBand, on up to the real good ones. But yeah, that's what people are doing. But there's totally a difference, And when we were talking about the independent artists, putting out records, when you put out a song, the audience, the people on the internet don't know the difference between, like, say, if I did songs like Usher.
Right.
They don't know the difference between me and Usher. Only thing they know is I'm trying to do what Usher is doing, or I'm in the same genre or the same vein as Usher.
Right.
So it means my music needs to be just as good, my graphics need to be just as good, my mix need to be, the songwriting, the production, because they don't know that I did it in my basement or in my bedroom.
Right.
And they don't really care. They just know Usher sound this way, yours should sound this way.
Exactly.
So the recording process has a lot to do. A lot of people are, like I said, combining it or basically converting over to the analog. But vinyl, I really love the way vinyl sound. It really has a feel and a warmth that touches you differently. I think digital excites you, and then analog moves you.
Okay. Yeah, we were just in a store, Music Box at 2713 Girard Avenue, and he had a lot of vinyl there.
Yeah.
And you know, when I again did my research, I saw that vinyl was on the rise, which again I just gave you the numbers.
Yeah.
And saw that the disc players were actually, or CDs were actually slumping in sales. They were actually 16.5%, which is 2.8 billion down.
Wow.
In 2012.
So if they're putting more songs on vinyl, I mean, how are people playing it? Who they marketing that to? Because I thought you said they put it on vinyl and then they might put it on a CD, like.
Yeah, they do. They'll do it all. They'll have
Okay.
digital versions. You know, I've had plenty of people ask me to send them MP3s, and at first I hated this. Like, why you want me to send an MP3? That's so. It's a cheap version.
Yeah.
Of the real version of a song. You know what I mean? But that's the format that they accept. You know, so
Really?
which is crazy. The standards have dropped.
Okay.
They have really, really, really dropped. Excuse
So
me,
even-
and that's the reason why people are kind of like trying to change up.
Okay. So even now, still, like if you put something together, they'll still ask you to send it to you on MP3.
Oh, they sure will.
Really?
In a second, yeah.
Wow.
Now, if we're doing like a record, like as in a finished record that is going to be marketed, released, sold, whatever the case is, they'll ask for a WAV file version, which is, let's say a WAV file version anywhere from 35 to 45 megabytes of information. And then an MP3, anywhere from 4.5 to 9 megabytes. Because it's a compressed version that's easy for you to send. It's not such a big file.
Okay.
But if you're really doing a real record, they will actually send an original WAV file of the finished product.
Okay.
So they can take that as their base, and then they can make vinyl, they can make CDs, and they can then also still convert that to MP3, so you can download it on whatever your favorite site is.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well, the music game has definitely really changed.
yeah.
You know, I know myself at my house, I have more CDs than anything else. I've gotten rid of all the vinyl, but now I'm actually thinking maybe I want to bring vinyl back.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? So that I can get that sound that of some of those instruments that I might be missing out on.
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this has been a special open conversation with my good man here, Michael Boykin, in his studio. You want to give your email address again?
My email address is producerboy66@gmail.com. You can contact me. Any questions, any inquiries, just go there and I'll answer you.
And if you want to hire him, this man is talented. We're sitting here in the studio. He just played a track for us that was off the chain. And I'm sure that's only just a little bit of what he wanted to show us, because he has some stuff he probably can't even let us hear. But hit him up if you want to hire my man. You know, have him do a track for you or whatever. If you're an up-and-coming, starving artist trying to get out there, maybe this is where you want to go. Like I said, this has been a special edition of Open Conversation with your man Simply D and my girl Liz.
Peace.
Catch you on the flip side. Peace.
Any of y'all come down here and buy a damn cassette, I'm gonna blow your head up. They even got 8 tracks over there.